Some escapes are called lucky, but this one was survival. At exactly 2:42 a.m., the elevator doors opened on the east wing of a private hotel suite in Midtown Manhattan. A barefoot woman stepped out, holding her shoes. Her lip cut, her dress torn, her face empty, like the part of her that used to scream had long since gone silent. That woman was Cassie Ventura, and the man behind the door she left behind was Diddy Combs. For years, we were told it ended quietly, that she walked away, that love simply faded. But leaked surveillance footage, buried emails, sealed testimonies, and handwritten journal entries now tell a very different story. A story that starts with rituals behind locked doors, is fed by power, silence, and masks, and ends with a secret escape plan that took 3 years to pull off. Court insiders say the hallway footage, long thought destroyed, was saved by a single hotel worker who broke protocol and risked everything. What Diddy tried to bury is now rising from the depths. And what you're about to hear isn't speculation. It's witness accounts, forgotten texts, patterns hidden in plain sight. This isn't a scandal. It's a system. And Cassie? She didn't just escape. She survived what most people would have never lived through. Cassie and the illusion of freedom, the glamour, the gaze, and the trap she couldn't name. Before the footage, before the whispers and witness lists, there was only one narrative. Cassie Ventura, the soft-spoken beauty with model looks and a silky voice, was Diddy's muse, his protege, his on and off partner in music, in love, in legacy. But public fairy tales often hide private horror. In every glossy magazine spread, Cassie looked effortless, draped in designer clothes, eyes distant, always just behind Diddy. Never beside, never in front, just behind. That's where she stayed in shadow. Their relationship was never labeled. That was the first red flag. Don't ask, don't title, insiders claimed Diddy would say. But Cassie?
She was under contract.
Signed at 19. She called it a lifetime internship in one scribbled journal entry, later leaked and authenticated. She didn't own her masters. She barely owned her name. From the outside, everything looked golden. The couple walked carpets together, posted vacation shots, smiled at Fashion Week. But hotel employees, assistants, and even close friends began noticing the tension years before the world caught on. According to leaked HR documents from Hotel N, a luxury Manhattan establishment where the two frequently stayed, Cassie was never allowed to check in herself. Her bookings were handled through an untraceable LLC. Her name didn't appear on the registry. Instead, aliases like Victoria East or CV were used. Diddy's name was always on file. And the suite? Always the same one. 22nd floor. Corner room. No cameras in the hallway. That's where the rumors began to shift into quiet concern. Sylvia Oken, the hotel supervisor who eventually leaked the now infamous 1406 footage, stated in her court affidavit, "She never looked me in the eye. Ever. When I handed her the key card, her hands were shaking. One time, she whispered, 'Do you know if this room has a back door?' That was when I knew something was off. It wasn't just her silence. It was the scripting. Multiple assistants, since gone anonymous, described what they called behavioral expectations. Cassie had to smile during dinners. She had to greet specific people with hugs. She was discouraged from making eye contact with male guests unless introduced. If she wore something too bold, she was allegedly handed a robe. In private circles, people started referring to her as the doll. And dolls don't talk. Studio producers reported her being ushered into recording booths, only to never hear the tracks again. One engineer wrote in a now-deleted Reddit thread, "She laid down 6 songs in one night. Smooth. Emotional. But the next day, the files were wiped. No backup. I was told she sounded too independent." That was the phrasing. Too independent. In 2015, Cassie attempted a quiet exit from the relationship and the label. She started appearing at events solo, cutting her hair, dancing again, literally and metaphorically. But it didn't last. By late 2016, she was seen again at Diddy's side. Same pose, same silence. What brought her back? According to anonymous DMs published by the now-removed blog Black Files Unlocked, a former housekeeper claimed she overheard Cassie crying in a guest room, saying, "I thought if I stayed gone long enough, he'd forget about me." But he doesn't forget. He finds you. The environment around her began to shift. Friends disappeared. Her longtime stylist left abruptly. A backup dancer she once trained with posted cryptic Instagram captions like, "Not everyone gets to walk away. Some are kept." The walls were tightening. Even Cassie's Instagram feed became telling. Photos with Diddy staged. Solo selfies rare. Captions minimal or non-existent. In 2018, she posted a picture of herself looking away from the camera with the word, "Elsewhere." It stayed up for 4 minutes before being deleted. She had no music releases that year. A Vanity Fair reporter who met Cassie at a backstage event described her as glassy, quiet, and blinking like she was trying to wake up. When asked why she hadn't released music in so long, she responded, "I guess silence is the new sound." What most of the world didn't know was that by this time, Cassie had already started planning her escape. She allegedly made contact with a former assistant who had left quietly after refusing to participate in what she described as emotional rehearsals, private sessions where Cassie was made to perform scripted intimacy, often in front of Diddy's friends or guests. That assistant, whose testimony now sits in a sealed civil court document, claimed, "She told me she needed 3 things: a new number, a passport, and a reason." She had the number. She had the passport. But the reason? That was what kept her trapped. Diddy, known for generosity and lavish treatment, had made sure everyone around her depended on him. Cassie's makeup artist? Paid through his company. Her team's flights? Booked through his assistant. Her business manager? Shared with one of his brands. She didn't just need to leave. She needed to disappear. But before she could, the footage happened. According to Sylvia Oken, the night of the hallway video wasn't the first sign of escalation. It was just the first that couldn't be ignored. Sylvia said, when she left that suite barefoot, she didn't just look hurt. She looked hunted. That's when Sylvia saved the backup, broke protocol, and sealed it in a personal flash drive. Years later, that decision would break open the myth of Cassie's quiet departure and reveal what really went on behind luxury's locked doors. But in the months that followed, Cassie fell silent again. Publicly, she and Diddy split. No details. No interviews. No explanation. Just a quiet Instagram post that read, "Peace costs more than people know." What the world didn't realize is that she hadn't broken free. Not yet.
But she was planning something.
Something that would take 2 more years. And a risk that could have cost her everything. The masked room, the hidden camera, and the plan she buried inside her silence. By late 2018, Cassie had stopped being a girlfriend. She had become a symbol for guests, for insiders, for people who had no idea whether what they were watching was real or scripted.
But
for Cassie, it was neither. It was survival. Witness accounts now paint a harrowing picture of what insiders call the masked room. This wasn't a studio. It wasn't a club. It was a modified basement space beneath one of Diddy's private residences in Beverly Hills. And according to documents leaked by a former contractor and later verified by satellite blueprints, the space had no windows, no fire exits, and was fitted with imported soundproofing materials, the same ones used in high-level interrogation rooms. One of the earliest insiders to speak was a dancer known only as Nelly. Her voice was disguised, her name redacted, but her story has become central to the civil case. They told me I was part of an art project, something avant-garde. I signed an NDA before I even walked in. When I saw the masks, the porcelain ones, like old theater, I didn't think it was dangerous. But then I saw Cassie. She didn't speak. She just adjusted my robe and said, "Don't forget where the door is." That's when I knew she wasn't part of the art. She was part of the structure. Nelly described rooms arranged like stages, lights installed overhead, Audio on loop. Ambient music with slowed-down voices, chanting. Sometimes it was just a single word repeated over and over. Comply, comply, comply. The women were referred to by numbers. Cassie was M0. The others, M1 through M5. Each had roles. Each followed choreography. And Diddy watched from behind a mirrored panel. Sometimes alone. Sometimes with guests. I wasn't allowed to speak. Not even to myself. Read one of Cassie's journal entries, recovered from a hidden compartment in a Louis Vuitton trunk she left behind after her 2019 departure. I learned how to smile with my eyes. I learned how to breathe without making sound. The sessions, as they were called in internal emails recovered by whistleblowers, followed strict rules. According to a digital trail leaked from a burner phone used by Diddy's ex-assistant. No phones allowed inside red zones. Participants were drug tested for compliance enhancers. A licensed therapist was on call not to help, but to monitor breakdowns. Code pink was used when someone tried to leave. Code black meant Cassie had gone off script. The messages are chilling. M0 not responding. Needs reset. Session ran long. Mask 4 fainted. M0 stayed in character. Payment delivered. Memory hole insured. Another woman, a former esthetician who worked on Cassie's skincare in 2018, came forward anonymously. Her skin was flawless, but her eyes were swollen. She had burst capillaries around her temples, signs of intense crying or emotional strain. When I touched her face, she flinched. Not dramatically, just like someone who hadn't been touched kindly in a long time. She tried to help. She left a note. Cassie allegedly flushed it down the sink. That same week, Cassie posted a story to Instagram. It was only up for 6 minutes. A photo of a candlelit hallway. No caption. But Reddit sleuths later traced the hallway to a known underground wing of the Concord Hotel, a place Diddy reserved frequently under alias names. The image was subtle, but it was Cassie's first breadcrumb. Then came the coded message. Cassie's journal had pages filled with repeating phrases. But one line, scribbled over and over, stood out. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. Wait. Former staffers now confirm this was a coded signal Cassie used to identify safe exits. According to Sylvia Oken, who saved the hallway footage and later testified anonymously, she was told this pattern during a brief conversation with Cassie in a service stairwell. She looked at me and said, "If it's me knocking like that, please don't call anyone. Just open the door." And that's exactly what happened. On April 2nd, 2019, the night of the hallway footage, Cassie knocked on the service exit using that exact pattern. Barefoot, shaking, lip bleeding. She didn't speak. Sylvia handed her a coat, and Cassie disappeared into a waiting car, one that had been prepaid and parked in a blind spot, according to leaked GPS data. But it wasn't just an escape. It was a planned extraction. Over the previous 8 months, Cassie had allegedly mapped out everything: timestamps, guard rotations, staff changes. A burner phone traced back to a UPS locker in Chinatown was used to arrange silent transportation. And the footage? The one from the hallway that showed her walking away? It was meant to be deleted. Sylvia testified she was given a USB by a Diddy team member with the order. Wipe it. Confirm deletion. Report back. But she didn't. She made a copy, buried it in a password-protected folder on a hidden drive, and walked away from the job 2 weeks later. That footage, now central to the case, was what started the unraveling. But Cassie's silence afterwards? That was what made people ask why. Because after she escaped, Cassie didn't do interviews. She didn't sue. She didn't explain. She vanished from public view. Married quietly, moved cities, changed her number. And while the world assumed healing, the machine behind Diddy's brand kept spinning. That is, until the footage leaked. A Reddit user posted the clip. Then an ex-stylist shared messages. Then a second hotel employee testified. And suddenly silence started to collapse. The sessions, the masks, the tunnels, the burns, the bruises. None of it could be denied anymore. Not with receipts. Not with logs. Not with Cassie's own journal pages now circulating in private Telegram groups. One line scrawled in blood red ink. If I stay, I vanish. If I leave, I live. And she left. Because luck didn't save her.
She did.
When the hallway footage leaked, the internet didn't react with outrage at first. It reacted with disbelief. A barefoot Cassie. Blood on her lip. The same hallway where she had been seen hundreds of times. Only this time, she wasn't returning. The grainy footage was time-stamped, dated, framed in cold digital silence. And then came the caption. He paid $100,000 to bury this. It's time to exhume the truth. In 72 hours, the post had 15 million views across Reddit, Twitter, now X, and private Discord channels. The press hesitated, but the public didn't. 3 longtime aides to Diddy, including one who had been listed on Roc Nation's event staff, vanished from social media. Profiles wiped. Websites down. All inquiries answered with one phrase. We are not authorized to comment on any past client relationships. One of them was last seen exiting a WeWork building in downtown LA. 2 days later, that same office was cleared out. Ciroc, the vodka empire that Diddy had made a cultural force, pulled upcoming campaigns without notice. Billboards featuring his image were taken down overnight. A spokesperson issued a vague statement. We are reviewing ongoing partnerships with all talent in light of new information. Revolt TV, which Diddy founded, replaced his image with placeholder graphics and quietly rebranded its social strategy. A Spotify playlist titled Diddy Essentials was suddenly removed from editorial rotation. And the hashtag whereas Cassie reached 9.7 million mentions within days. 2 powerhouse attorneys known for representing high-profile musicians stepped away from the case without explanation. Diddy's primary publicist went on indefinite leave. Courtroom insiders leaked emails showing panic strategy shifts. If she testifies, it's over. Contain the footage. Delay hearings. Control the conversation. But it was already too
Late.
because the world wasn't just watching, it was connecting dots. Cassie, allegedly under protection, was never physically present, but her words were. One recording, admitted as evidence, included her voice.
Clear.
Steady. I knew if I ran, he'd say I was unstable, that I was a liar. But I also knew if I stayed, I would disappear piece by piece. Like every woman who came before me. I had to leave before I became one of them. The room was silent. Even the stenographer paused. Another quote, taken from a sworn affidavit by a former property manager for Diddy's estate, described the house as a maze of closed doors. I wasn't allowed in the West Wing. Nobody was. Cameras were turned inward. One hallway was referred to as the Red Mile. I asked why. He said, because when you walk it, you don't come back the same. Rihanna unfollowed Diddy. So did Swizz Beatz. Then The Weeknd. Then Sierra. Then Janet Jackson. Within 5 days, over 40 verified celebrity accounts had unfollowed or removed images with him. Media outlets began combing through old interviews. Suddenly, old clips took on chilling new meaning. Diddy cutting Cassie off during an interview when she tried to answer a question directly. Him describing control as a love language. A 2013 breakfast show where he joked about women knowing their place. It had once passed as bravado. Now it looked like foreshadowing. A throwback photo from Diddy's 50th birthday party, previously flooded with praise, was quietly deleted from Cassie's fan page. But before it vanished, someone screenshotted the top comment. She smiled because she had to, but if you zoom in on her eyes, you'll see the truth trying to breathe. One found an old construction permit for a secret renovation at Diddy's LA estate, filed under noise control adjustment. The renovation included full soundproofing, double-thick basement doors, and external biometric locks. The same locks described in multiple anonymous testimonies as part of the sessions. Another reporter located one of the cars used in Cassie's 2019 escape, a black Lexus SUV traced back to a now-defunct transportation company called Quiet Transit LLC. Public records showed the company was opened for 6 months, closed the day after Cassie left. An anonymous family member, believed to be Cassie's cousin, shared a voice message to a private blog. We knew something was off, but we were told not to ask questions. That she was in love, that she was sensitive and needed privacy. But silence doesn't mean peace. It just means fear has taken over. They then added, she didn't run away from a man. She escaped a system. As of now, Diddy has not made a formal statement. His lawyers claim they are preparing countersuits. But no press conference, no live appearance, only a quote, reportedly pulled from a confidential memo sent to remaining staff. The king doesn't explain himself. He waits for silence to return. But silence isn't returning, because the footage exists. The testimonies are piling. The walls of secrecy are crumbling. And what once looked like power now looks like a carefully engineered cage. In the final days of the collapse, a whistleblower leaked over 70 pages of NDAs linked to bad boy interns and hotel contractors. A private security firm released an internal memo titled, "Do Not Engage. High-risk client." And a private email from a luxury hotel VP was exposed. We knew. We all knew. And now we pray she forgives herself for how long we let it go on. Diddy's empire isn't gone, but it's rotting from the center. The brand is cracked. The image is stained. And the story? It's still unfolding. Because Cassie didn't just survive the masked rooms. She documented them. And now, the world is finally reading what she wrote with her silence. Some stories get silenced before they're ever heard. But not this one. This wasn't a breakup. This wasn't industry drama. This was a woman locked in a system, groomed to stay quiet, applauded for surviving what she was never meant to escape from. Cassie didn't go on a press tour. She didn't expose him on a podcast. She walked away and let the truth find its own way out. Because behind every red carpet smile was a script. Behind every luxury suite was a locked door. And behind that door was a secret someone paid $100,000 to bury. That secret is out now. And the question isn't whether it's true. It's how many others knew and said nothing. So we ask you not as fans, but as human beings. What do you believe? Was Cassie just a quiet ex-girlfriend? Or was she the blueprint of what happens when silence is bought, fear is manufactured, and control is disguised as love? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you see when you watch that hallway footage? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, not for gossip, but to make sure these stories don't disappear again. Because what Diddy tried to erase was never fiction. And what's coming next might be even darker.